Joyce, how appropriate is it that our presentation on our friends, the angels, should just happen to fall on February 14th, Valentine's Day?
Well, it's very appropriate because the angels love each of us so much. And truly, our relationship with the angels is a love story for the ages. People do often wonder, are angels real? And the Urantia book tells us that the teaching about guardian angels is not a myth. Certain groups of humans do actually have personal angels.
Today, we're going to cover belief in angels, angels and the Bible, who angels are and why they matter. We'll then talk about angels in the central universe, the super universe, and the local universe, and we'll conclude with angels on Urantia and guardian angels. The topic of angels is extremely broad, so by necessity, what we present today is an overview. In the word, as explained by our friend Louis Costa, who's here today, across religious history, angels have occupied a special place in human faith and imagination. They appear as messengers, guardians, servants of God, sometimes awe-inspiring, sometimes tenderly near. Scripture and tradition have preserved these portrayals as expressions of divine care. The Urantia book enters this long spiritual inheritance, not by dismissing it, but by quietly deepening it. Without diminishing reverence or mystery, the Urantia book situates angels within a living, purposeful universe where ministry, growth, and divine intention unfold through time. Angels are revealed not as dramatic visitors from another realm, but as faithful servants of God, steadily accompanying the evolution of human life. 69% of U.S. adults believe in angels. And this includes 33% of adults with no religious affiliation. Among those who believe in angels, 36% report direct experience.
And Dave, it's important to note that belief in angels is a fundamental tenet of Islam and that many Hindus believe in angels as well.
So belief in angels is worldwide.
Yes. The word angel appears 285 times in the Bible. Cherubim appears 90 times, but the Bible provides very little actual information. We humans have known about angels for a long time, but we just didn't know much about them. Fortunately, the Urantia book has 7 papers devoted to angels, which are listed here. And in addition, many other papers refer to and discuss the angels.
Who are the angels? The infinite spirit is dedicated to revealing the combined love of the Father and the Son to the children of time. In the local creations, the infinite spirit does not come down to the material races in the likeness of mortal flesh, as does the eternal Son. But the infinite spirit and her coordinate spirits do downstep themselves, undergo an amazing series of divinity attenuations until they appear as angels. Angels are not just the ministering spirit associates of the evolutionary will creatures, but they're also colleagues and working associates of the higher divine personalities. Each angel is a distinct personality and highly individualized. Angels are, first, personalities of the infinite spirit. Second, single origin beings, meaning that they are direct descendants and descended only from the infinite spirit. And they're also ministering spirits. Celestial beings who don't qualify as angels are the brilliant evening stars, or super angels. They're not angels because they're not of single origin, nor are they ministering spirits. And the same is true of archangels. Now, the midwayers, although ministering spirits, are not of single origin, and therefore they too don't qualify as an angel.
So now that we know who the angels are, let's talk about why they matter to us. They are essential to our mortal resurrection and ascension. They're critical to our personal spiritual growth. They guide and teach us, and they're loyal associates and true friends. They hold our hands all the way from Urantia to paradise and beyond. And on that journey, we need their help. Consider where we humans now stand on the evolutionary ladder, on the very bottom rung, and think about the magnitude and extent of the ascension plan. We need to transform ourselves from material beings to pure spirit. Think of how much we must learn and master along the way, and the vast distances we must travel from Urantia to paradise. At every step of this billion-year journey, our friends the angels are indispensable.
Angels come in many levels, orders, and types. The angels that we're going to talk about today are the Supernaphim, the Seconaphim, and the Seraphim, because these are the angels who in large numbers further the ascending scheme of perfection for the children of time. These angels function in the central, super, and local universes, and they form an unbroken chain of spirit ministers from the inhabited worlds like Urantia to paradise itself. This chart shows the number of orders and types of Supernaphim, Seconaphim, and Seraphim revealed in the Urantia book. We'll discuss each of these groups of angels in turn, but we won't address each of the 12 orders, and we'll touch on only a handful of the 84 different types.
We'll start with the Supernaphim, and this image is how one reader envisions them. The Supernaphim are the ministering spirits of paradise and the central universe. They are the highest order of the lowest group of the children of the infinite spirit. They come in 3 classifications. The primary Supernaphim largely serve on the Isle of Paradise, and the secondary and tertiary Supernaphim largely serve on Havona.
This is an image created by Gary Tong of the Central Universe. Paradise sits in the center, and paradise is the home of the primary Supernaphim. The 7 circuits of Havona encircle paradise, and they are the home of the secondary and tertiary Seconaphim. Primary Supernaphim are direct offspring of the infinite spirit. On paradise, they minister to paradise citizens and ascending pilgrims alike. They also serve as personal messengers of the deities. And they command the seraphic hosts on worlds isolated like Urantia due to rebellion.
So Dave, didn't the primary Supernaphim sent to Urantia author some of the papers in the Urantia book?
She did. She authored the 3 papers on marriage, and she also authored paper 113 on guardian angels and paper 114 on the seraphic or superhuman planetary government of Urantia. The one order primary Supernaphim that we're going to touch on are the custodians of knowledge. The Urantia book tells us that they are the final and living summaries of a vast network of recording angels from individual planets such as Urantia up to the local universe headquarters, the super universe, and through Havona and into paradise itself. They are living accumulations of knowledge, living records as distinct from the formal records or dead records of paradise. Fun fact, the custodians of knowledge are living books. They're living libraries. The facts of the universe are inherent in these primary Supernaphim, actually recorded in these angels. There's many teachers in the central universe. The custodians of knowledge are the exalted teachers of the central universe.
The secondary Supernaphim minister on the 7 planetary circuits of the central universe. These are the 1 billion study worlds, and they train both the pilgrims of time and the paradise pilgrims. These 7 groups serve 1 group for each of the 7 circles of Havona. When a pilgrim lands on the receiving planet of Havona, the pilot world of the 7th circuit, we come with only 1 endowment of perfection, that is, perfection of purpose. On Havona, we seek to develop perfection of understanding and technique of comprehension, traits which are indispensable to acquiring paradise perfection of personality.
And Joyce, the angels which help us obtain perfection of understanding, and the technique of comprehending on the seven circuits of Havona are the secondary Sapernathum.
Right.
For example, on the fourth circuit, the secondary Sapernathum will help us attain perfection of understanding with respect to the eternal Son, and also the technique of comprehending the personal presence of the eternal Son.
Yes.
Now, turning to the tertiary Sapernathum. The tertiary Sapernathum are the angelic specialists and administrators of Havona. On the seven circuits of Havona, they coordinate the many diverse activities involving personalities of different orders and levels. They also record and transmit for the files of Havona their own tertiary order and the formal records of paradise, the dead records of paradise. They broadcast and receive information. They also serve as a personal messenger service. And the Urantia book describes these tertiary Sapernathum, or at least one order of them, as the living newspapers of Havona. They keep the inhabitants of Havona informed as to what's happening on Havona. And of course, there's an order devoted to transporting.
So we turn now to the super universe, which is the home of the Sapernathum. The Sapernathum are the ministering spirits of the super universe. They perform the routine ministering work there, aided by other members of the vast family of the infinite spirit. The Sapernathum perform in the super universe what the Supernathum perform on Havona and Paradise, and what the Seraphim perform in the local universes. And they serve as primary contacts and aids of ascenders and descenders alike. When we reach the super universe, this is the first time that we interact with beings from Havona and Paradise to any great degree, and it's the first time that we meet mortals from the other local universes. The super universe government can be likened to the U.S. federal government, and in addition to their role supporting the super universe government, the Sapernathum also educate and prepare ascenders and descenders. And if you look at these arrows, let's envision them instead of arrows, but as ladders. And now on this slide, we see William Blake's painting of Jacob's Ladder. The super universe is a marvelous center of administration, control, ministry, and executive government, and the Sapernathum are integral to its functioning. So envision the arrows on the prior slide as ladders, and then look at this ladder, and we see the countless trillions of mortals climbing up from the inhabited worlds of time and space, and at the same time, countless celestial beings climbing down. And we all meet here at the super universe level.
And this is a level in which we encounter in large numbers the Sapernathum, and we receive their aid and help.
That's correct. And then think of the traditional American hymn, "We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder." One of those verses says, "Every round goes higher, higher." And from our perspective, this is a pretty good description of our path from Urantia to the local universe, then to the super universe, and then from the super universe on to Paradise.
You know, Sapernathum differ from other angels in one critical attribute, reflectivity. Sapernathum are offspring of the reflective spirits, and they are therefore reflective by nature. The Sapernathum enable the super universe government to be perfectly reflective of the paradise authority from above, and at the same time be wholly sympathetic and perfectly conversant with the needs of the local universes below. There are three orders of Sapernathum we'll talk about today. The primary Sapernathum serve the Ancients of Days. The secondary Sapernathum serve those beings of Paradise origin who are serving in the super government. And the tertiary Sapernathum serve the ascendant beings who are serving in the super universe government.
The primary Sapernathum serve the Ancients of Days, and think how valuable it is to them to have these living mirrors. The Ancients of Days, from their position midway between the inhabited worlds and Paradise, between man and God, can instantly look both ways, hear both ways, and know both ways. And of these primary secanophim, we have the voice of the conjoint actor, who allows the Ancients of Days to know the mind of the infinite spirit. And this is particularly helpful because the infinite spirit does not have a personal representative at the superuniverse level. We have the voice of the creator sons, which allows the Ancients of Days to know the attitude of Michael of Nebadon on any matter.
Joyce, Doctor, could you give us an example? Let's say the Ancients of Days or one of their associates wanted to know the attitude of our creator son, Michael of Nebadon, on a specific matter. How would they go about this?
Well, the Ancients of Days would then reach out to the chief of the Nebadon voices, who would then summon the Michael Secanophim of record, who would then reflect this information to the Ancients of Days.
And it would be like Michael of Nebadon was standing right in front of them, voicing his attitude on that particular matter.
Correct. We also have the voice of the angelic hosts, who allow the Ancients of Days to know the attitude of any commanding or supervising angel, from the supernaphim all the way to the seraphim. The secondary secanophim serve the beings of paradise origin in the superuniverse government, and among these are the voices of wisdom. These angels provide instant access to the wisdom of the ages and the intellect of the moment. They reflectively access the living libraries of paradise. These are the custodians of knowledge, which Dave discussed just a few slides ago, so they can reach up to paradise. They reflectively access the wisdom of the master circuits of the superuniverse, so they can reach out across the superuniverse. And they reflectively access the wisdom of the higher minds of the universes below, so they can reach down to the local universes. And here's a fun fact. These secanophim allow the perfecters of wisdom not only to hear the actual and original expression of this wisdom, but to reflectively see the very beings who gave voice to it.
I'm turning now to the tertiary secanophim. Of the three orders of secanophim, the tertiary group ministers most extensively to the ascending creatures of time, such as you and me. Urantia Book describes the tertiary secanophim as the time savers, space abridgers, error detectors, faithful teachers, and everlasting guideposts. They've been placed in mercy at the crossroads of time to guide the feet of anxious pilgrims in moments of great perplexity and spiritual uncertainty.
And you know, Dave, this gives us a sense of how challenging our path will be.
Yeah, it sounds like our ascension career will be daunting at times.
Yes.
We're told that from the time that we first arrive on the mansion world until we leave to our transit to paradise itself, that we will avail ourselves of the emergency help of the tertiary secanophim. Interestingly, these secanophim, I guess the superpower of these secanophim is that they reflect the knowledge and wisdom of the pilgrims who have preceded us on the long journey to paradise. So Joyce, it appears that we'll be able to actually tap into the wisdom and experience of those ascenders who have preceded us in time.
Yes, that is very comforting.
Now, turning from the super universe to the local universe. Now, we're going to turn from the secanophim of the super universe to the seraphim. The seraphim are along with their assistants, the cherubim and seraphim, are the angelic core of the local universe. Seraphim are created by the universe mother spirit, 41,472 at a time.
That is quite a litter.
It is. Seraphim lack material bodies, but each is a definite and discrete being. They're of spirit, nature, and origin. They're invisible to mortals. They're non-sex creatures. They commonly work in pairs. Most assignments require two angels, but typically they can work alone. And seraphim are the traditional angels of heaven who live so near us and do so much for us.
Seraphim understand mortals intellectually. They share our non-sensuous emotions. They appreciate our music, art, and humor. They're fully aware of our moral struggles and spiritual difficulties, and they are very affectionate and sympathetic. But one thing they don't understand about us is our legacy of animal fear. They find it hard to understand why we will so persistently allow our higher intellectual powers, even our religious faith, to be so dominated by fear, so thoroughly demoralized by dread and anxiety.
Joyce, didn't one of the U.S. presidents comment on the nature of fear?
Yes, in 1933, in his first inaugural address, FDR said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself."
And Joyce, isn't our seraphim's frustration with fear is that it interferes with their ability to help us progress spiritually?
Right. If we are paralyzed, we can't take action. We can't make decisions.
And why is decision making? Why are the angels so concerned with our decision making?
Well, the book tells us that the way we progress, the way we grow our soul is by making decisions, and more decisions.
So when we allow fear to prevent us from proceeding forward, it interferes with our angels' ability to help us.
Yes, that's correct. Compared to mortal races, the seraphim in nature and personality are a little ahead of us. Their spiritual status is superior, and they possess functional powers far beyond our human comprehension. We know that the very hairs of our heads are numbered, but seraphim don't waste time counting. Seraphim inherently know these things, which allows them to perform with exceeding ease numerous duties, which would be tremendous tasks for mere mortals.
All right. Before serving on a local system, seraphim are fully trained. A seraphim spends her first 1,000 years as an observer and spends her next 1,000 years in education and training. And then she's assigned to one of the constellations. And then she serves once again as an observer, and this time on the lowest of the evolutionary worlds. And only then do they return to the constellation to begin her advanced studies and prepare for service on a local system. Joyce, fun fact, angels are customarily designated by the feminine pronoun. Do you know why?
Yes, beings descended from the universal Father and the eternal Son are designated the sons of God, and the children of the infinite Spirit are designated the daughters of God, hence the she, her pronouns.
Right. Once commissioned, seraphim arranged all over Nebanon and even our super universe on assignment. Their work in the universe is without bounds and limits. Seraphim are closely associated with the material creatures of the inhabited worlds, and they also serve the lower orders of spiritual personalities.
But seraphim are not infallible. They joined the Lucifer rebellion in large numbers. Lucifer charged that the universal Father did not really exist, that he was a myth invented by the Paradise Sons, and that such a multitude of angels, many with over 100,000 years of training and experience, bought into this sophistry, demonstrates that, like mortals, angels are far from infallible. Seraphim come in 7 orders and 42 revealed groupings, and paper 39 talks about all of these in great detail. So we may ask, why are there so many orders and groupings of local universe angels? Well, these angels are the worker bees of the local universe. At headquarters, constellation, mansion worlds, inhabited worlds alike, they organize, coordinate, teach, befriend, broadcast, and transport, and they do so at virtually every level and sub-level throughout the entire local universe. But rather than address these 42 groupings, we'll touch on just 4.
The first order of seraphim that we'll talk about are the teaching counselors. Teaching counselors are secretaries to all orders of teachers, from the very highest, the Melchizedeks, to the mortals on the mansion worlds who are helping the ascenders just behind them. Teaching counselors serve as associates of the division chiefs of the educational and training institutions of the local universe. They don't serve necessarily as teachers themselves. Teaching counselors are attached in large numbers to the mansion worlds and the educational spheres of the constellation. A fun fact, our creator's son, Michael of Nebanon, served as a seraphim in the likeness of a teaching counselor. During this bestowal, we're told he served on what we might denominate a private secretary to 26 different master teachers functioning on 22 different worlds.
And today we would refer to a private secretary as a personal assistant.
Correct. Turning to transporters, recorders, and reserves. Fun fact, a transporter can travel at 3 times the speed of light. Whoosh, about 559,000 miles per second. Recorders, each order of angels, at every level in the grand universe, from the inhabited worlds to paradise itself, seemingly has its own group of recording angels. Recording angels preserve the history, experiences, and decisions of individuals, worlds, systems, local universes, sub-universes, Avona, and even paradise itself.
And the remaining group common to most orders of angels are the reserves. In addition to making up differentials in demand, they serve as personal messengers and on special assignment. So here's a fun fact. When we reach Jerusalem, our system capital, one of our chief delights during recess periods will be to talk with these much-traveled and many experienced seraphim.
And before we leave this slide, Joyce, it's important to note that the reserves will become our close friends during our sojourns at each stop.
Yes.
So they're very important to us.
Yeah, they're not just extras. We'll turn now to Urantia and the seraphim who function on our planet. The Most Highs rule in the kingdoms of men, and they do this largely through the ministry of the seraphim. When paper 114 was authored, the roll call of planetary angels showed over 1 billion individual seraphim and a similar number of cherubim. And here's a fun fact. The world population at the time was 2 to 2.1 billion people. So we have a human population of 2 billion and an angel population of 2 billion. Today, the world population is 8.2 billion. So Dave, would you venture a guess as to what our angel population might be today?
Well, Joyce, looking at the number of angels which were revealed in human population back in 1925 to 34, this suggests a 1-to-1 correlation between the human population and the angel population. If this holds true, with a world population of 8.2 billion, we probably have upwards of 8.2 billion angels, unseen friends, on Urantia today.
Right, and all essentially trying to help us get where we need to go.
To progress, yes.
Yes.
As individuals and as a planet.
Yes, and Dave, because Urantia was isolated by rebellion, has that impacted our planetary government?
Yes. Urantia lacks a planetary prince, his corporal staff, and the material regime of an Adamic son and daughter. These absences are partially compensated by, first, the triune presence of the archangels, the Most High Observer, and the Governor General. And second, by the special ministry of seraphim, which is most important to us, and midway creatures. And third, the presence of its primary suprematum, who we discussed earlier, to command our planet's seraphic hosts. Seraphim and their associated cherubim have much to do with the details of superhuman government on a normal planet. But this is especially true on worlds isolated by rebellion like Urantia. Seraphim and cherubim execute the mandates of the resident Governor General and his associates. In addition to the typical complement of planetary angels, Urantia is now aided by 12 corps of Seraphitan graduates, the Master Seraphim of Planetary Supervision. We're told that when the first Governor General arrived on Urantia, concurrent with the outpouring of the Spirit of Truth, he was accompanied by 12 corps of special Seraphim, Seraphitan graduates, who were immediately assigned to certain special planetary services. And these Seraphitan graduates and these 12 corps function to promote progress, to progress our planet. Now, the graduates of Seraphitan are special angels, special seraphim. They have ascended all the way to Seraphitan They have achieved the 7 circles of light. They have attained perfection of existence and supremacy of service. And then they're mustered back into the super universe. And here they were sent down to Urantia to help our planet achieve evolutionary progress.
So the chiefs of the 12 corps of Master Seraphim constitute our Governor General's administrative cabinet. And some examples of the areas of planetary progress they promote are the progress angels, who initiate evolutionary progress, the religious guardians, who are the angels of the churches, the angels of enlightenment, who foster progressive education, and because even angels need help, we have the angels of the angels.
Joyce, Urantia has progressed greatly in the last 2,000 years.
Yes.
How much of that progress would you attribute to the 12 corps of Master Seraphim?
Well, it's hard to say because at the same time that they've been active, we've also had the universal bestowal of thought adjusters and the spirit of truth. But certainly these 3 working all together have enabled us to progress tremendously.
Urantia is nowhere near where it would have been but for the Lucifer Rebellion and the Adamic default. But the Urantia book tells us that Urantia hasn't been abandoned either. We have received and are continuing to receive great help in the form of our unseen friends, the angels. Now, we'll now, in our final part of our presentation on guardian angels, we'll start with a prayer to my guardian angel. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this day be by my side, to light and guard, to rule and guide. Elizabeth tells us that her parents said this prayer daily with her at her bedtime when she was a child, and that she still says this prayer daily.
We started this presentation by noting that certain groups of human beings do actually have personal angels. These guardian angels are devoted to the ministry to individual mortals. And in past ages, these were about the only angels that were recognized. They have functioned as the spiritual helpers of mortal man in all the great events of the past and present. And note that guardian angels volunteer. They are wise, capable, and experienced seraphim, and they are assigned to us based on the needs of the individual mortal. This is a sculpture of Salonia, the voice of the garden. And while she wasn't a guardian angel, she was Adam and Eve's personal seraphim. She was sculpted by Luigi Bartolomeo, our dear friend. So, do I have a guardian angel? Well, a pair of guardian angels are exclusively and wholly devoted to you when you make the supreme decision, when there is a real betrothal with your thought adjuster, or when your mind breaks through the inertia of animal legacy and attains the 3rd circle, or if you are enrolled in any of the several reserve corps of destiny.
If you have yet to be assigned a guardian angel, you have a group guardian angel to assign to guide you. On the initial circle, the 7th circle, one guardian angel with a company of cherubim are assigned per 1,000 mortals. On the 5th circle, a seraphic pair with a company of cherubim are assigned per 100 mortals. So as you descend down through the circles, the amount of guardian angel guidance you get increases until you reach the 3rd circle when you're assigned your own guardian angel. Note that you're also assigned a company of cherubim. A company of cherubim is 288 cherubim. And while cherubim is not a guardian angel, they are capable beings in their own right. The Urantia book describes a cherubim as wonderfully intelligent, marvelously efficient, touchingly affectionate, and almost human. So if you're at the 7th circle, you have one guardian angel and 288 cherubim to guide you. What will your guardian angel do for you? Well, she'll provide you continuous and unceasing watch care until mortal death. One of the pair of guardian angels is always present to watch over you. But the most important thing that your guardian angel does for you is increase thought adjuster effectiveness. We're told the thought adjuster's work is much more effective after the human ascender attains the third circle and receives a personal guardian angel. Once you receive your personal guardian angel, there's unmistakable improvement in all phases of cosmic achievement and spiritual development.
Guardian angels coordinate the impersonal spirit influences which indwell, surround, and impinge our evolving minds. These include the agencies and influences of the infinite spirit, the thought adjuster, and the spirit of truth. Human beings are personalities, and it is very difficult for non-personal spirits and pre-personal entities to make direct contact with such highly material minds. And it is largely through the ministry of the guardian angels that all of these influences are more or less unified and made more nearly appreciable. Guardian angels also stimulate our minds. They continually seek to promote cosmic circle-making decisions. And there's that word decisions again.
Decisions, and more decisions.
Yes. And unlike the thought adjusters, seraphim work from the outside in, so they must act through the social, ethical, and moral environment. They teach our evolving nature by guiding our footsteps into paths of new and progressive experience. They manipulate our mortal environment to augment our realization and cooperation with our indwelling adjusters, and as always, they record their undertaking.
No one knows for certain how a guardian angel accomplishes all this. The revelators don't know how such a subordinate angelic personality, created but a little above the universe level of humanity, can do such difficult and complex things. But the revelators conjecture the answer lies in the Supreme Being. Turn to what a guardian angel won't do for you. She won't interfere with your free will. Your guardian angel will influence you in every possible manner, consistent with the dignity of your personality, but under no circumstances will she interfere with your free will action. Your guardian angel is not an overlord or a director. She is simply a guardian. Guardian angels guard you. They do not seek to directly influence you. You must chart your own course. But these angels then act to make the best possible use of the course you have chosen.
Guardian angels almost never prevent accidents. On the way to Philadelphia, Thomas asked Jesus whether the angels and other spirit beings are able to prevent accidents. And Jesus replied, "Have I been so long with you, and yet you continue to ask me such questions? Have you failed to observe how the Son of Man lives as one with you and consistently refuses to employ the forces of heaven? I declare that such beliefs are superstitions. Material accidents are not arbitrarily interfered with by celestial personalities. Under ordinary circumstances, only midway creatures can intervene in material conditions to safeguard the persons of men and women of destiny. And even in special situations, these beings can so act only in obedience to the specific mandates of their superiors. Angels do not intrude except in emergencies, and then usually on the direct orders of their superiors. Seraphim can function as material ministers to human beings, but their action is very rare. They are able, with the assistance of the midway creatures and the physical controllers, to function in a wide range of activities, even to make actual contact with mankind. But such occurrences are very unusual.
Your guardian angel will not make your life easy. To accept the guidance of a seraphim rarely means a life of ease, but rather to encounter the rugged hills of moral choosing and spiritual progress. And finally, your guardian angel will not respond to your prayers. A guardian angel acts on your behalf quite independent of your direct appeals. She is executing the mandates of her superior, and she functions regardless of your passing whims or changing moods. This doesn't imply that you can't make your guardian angel's tasks easier, but simply that your guardian angel is not directly concerned with your appeals or with your prayers. Turning to guardian angels upon mortal death, the master explained to Nathaniel, also are these angels very much concerned with the means whereby man's spirit is released from the tabernacles of the flesh and his soul escorted to the mansions of heaven. Jesus said, angels are the sure and heavenly guides of the soul of man during that period which intervenes between death of the flesh and the new life in the spirit abodes.
After death, the material body returns to the elemental world from which it came, but two non-material factors persist. These are the thought adjuster with the memory transcription of the mortal career and, in the custody of the destiny guardian, the immortal Urantia soul. It is the reunion of the adjuster and the soul that reassembles the surviving personality. This reassembly requires the fabrication of a suitable form and the return of the adjuster. When these are present, the seraphic custodian of the slumbering immortal soul bestows the immortal soul upon and in the awaiting Urantia mind-body form.
Turning to angels in the ascension career, when you wake up on the mansion world, you'll see for the first time your ever-present guardian angels of Earth days, and you'll become truly conscious of the presence and identity of your thought adjuster. On the Urantia spheres, your guardian angel are your open companions. Your guardian angels not only consort with you as you progress through the mansion worlds, but in every way possible, they assist you in the acquirement of Urantia and spiritual status. At the same time, your guardian angels have to go to school themselves. They need to grow spiritually as well, and they will attend the extension schools for seraphim that are maintained on the mansion worlds. Now, your guardian angel is going to follow you through your entire ascension career. This is a billion-year plus friendship and association. Your guardian angel will accompany you through Jerusalem and its associated worlds, then on to Urantia and its spheres of advanced socialization, then follow you through your career in the universe headquarters worlds, take you to Salvington, where you will stand face to face with Michael of Nebadon. Then they'll follow you through the minor and major sectors of the super universe and on to your verse itself. And they will remain, your guardian seraphim will remain with you until you finally leave on the long Havana flight. At this time, your guardian seraphim will either follow you through to Havana or separate briefly and go on to Seraphinkan and complete their education there. And once they've completed their education on Seraphinkan, they'll wait for you on the shores of paradise.
Throughout eternity, we will always be in communication with our guardian angels. We may or may not be reunited in eternal service, but the seraphim are always in communication with their former wards. The intimate associations and the affectionate attachments of the realms of human origin are never forgotten nor ever completely severed. In the eternal ages, men and angels will cooperate in the divine service as we did in the career of time.
Okay, in conclusion, we discussed belief in angels and the Bible, who angels are and why they matter. We talked about angels in the central universe, the super universe, in the local universe, and we closed with the angelic government on Urantia, guardian angels and guardian angels. We hope that you enjoyed this spotlight presentation on our friends, the angels, and that it stimulates you to learn more about your friends and our friends, the angels. Thank you.
Thank you both very much. Very interesting, very informative presentation. It's always sort of an eye-opener, I think, to recall and be refreshed or go through all the different types and kinds of angels that are in the book. It's such a broad category and so many different ways that they are existing and helping and involved in our career. So thank you very much. Let's open it up for questions, comments, thoughts. Alfonso.
Can people sense the presence of the angels? Can we sense them? Can we, I don't know, feel that presence?
Well, the view from the Urantia book is that there are unseen friends, and that they work, pretty silently behind the scenes, influencing us through our mind. So it's probably very unusual for anyone to actually experience the angels any more than it is your one's thought adjuster. It's very difficult to ascertain which of these spiritual beings you're actually, if you feel their presence, which one you're actually feeling.
But it's very comforting to know that all of these celestial hosts are out there helping us. And I think that's part of sort of the comfort that you're referring to.
And there are beings who do have personal interaction with angels and have in their lifetime and have, will say so. And,
Yeah, thanks. There's an interesting section. I don't have it at my fingertips, but I can look that at least it indicates that all of these influences, thought adjuster, angels, spirit of truth, all of these influence we experience kind of as one, as so for us so it might be the angel, it might be one of these other angels, it might be your personal angel, it might be your thought adjuster. It's hard for us to distinguish that. It's all that they all help each other and that we perceive them as the same thing in a way. So that's an interesting take on, but I know people have different experiences and feelings for sure. Josh?
Hello. Nice to see you're a real person, David.
Thank you, Josh.
This is it's easy, but it's not easy question. What's your interpretation of their actual form? Because they say we can't see them, they have no physical, but they say they have a definite form. And obviously if they're individuals and they can be in a place or not in a place, because the Bible is generally where everyone starts, right? With the circles and the 6 wings. And you're like, so what's your interpretation of their actual, what they look like? If you were to,
that's kind of a difficult question from the viewpoint of in how they appear to us in context.
Yeah.
When they appear to us, they can't appear as some type of invisible being. They have to appear to us in some type of form which we recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, for most people, most people don't recognize them as a form. They recognize them as having done something. When they report the presence of an angel, they report them somehow preventing an accident or doing something to them. My mother has something she told me when she was when I was 10 that happened to her. Her grandfather died. And he was downstairs in the casket, and she's upstairs, and she's been crying now for days. And she said her grandfather walked up the stairs and knocked on the door and stood before her and said, "Joni, quit crying. I'm okay." And then walked down the stairs, and that's the end of it. She didn't say this with any fanfare, and she'd never reported anything like this. But in that situation, she reports that a being, appeared to her in the form of her grandfather. Now,
with a message of comfort.
With a message of comfort. So did that actually happen? I don't know. She says it did, and I believe her.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying the celestial. I get what you're saying. Like when they appear to us, but you have when I think about something, I need a form to think about. Let's say, if you envision your guardian angel, what comes to mind?
Well, Bill Sadler gave an example in one of the classes that he taught in one of the study groups about what a midwear looked like. And he said it'd be just like a human being stripped of skin and stripped of everything, all the organs, except for the central nervous system.
Like an energy
Like an energy thing. So if the midwears are the closest beings to mortals, then an angel would appear something like that. A nervous system, some kind of a mind that's able to access the not a cellular mind, but some type of mind to be able to access the various currents and communicate. But we really don't know.
And that's why we included that one slide that showed one reader's idea of a supernifim. It was like a glowing orb for the head or the center, and then some flowing things emanating from it.
Okay. No, that's good. It's helpful. The nervous system. I like that one with the
Naked nervous system.
Yeah, it's an
All right,
interesting
thank you.
exercise. That you're right. Even though we can't know the answer, it is kind of an interesting exercise to think about that, because I think it helps put it in our minds in some way, right? Can't
Because you
be
can envision Jesus, right?
can't be 100% different than humanoids, right? Because we read
Yeah.
about other humans on other planets, and they're kind of like us. They might be taller, they might be shorter, they might be a little bit different, but they all have two arms, one head. So whatever the spirit equivalent of that, there's probably something along those lines, right? We'll find out, I guess. Luigi, welcome, and please go ahead.
First of all, I want to say, David and Joyce, great subject matter selection. And I'm so very glad you started out with the numbers about how an overwhelming number of people believe in angels. This makes it a lot easier to talk about without sounding like some goofball. Now, over the years, many, many years ago, I've heard Byron Ballistos on 2 separate shows of Coast to Coast, where he's being interviewed about the Urantia book. And Byron had the good sense, even the wisdom, rather than to fall into the trap of getting really granular and describe the nature of every type of spiritual being he was talking about, he called them all angels. He threw them into this category of angels. And that made a lot of sense for me, because I'm the kind of guy who's not a good attenuator and would get really granular and try to define every single one. So I thought there was great wisdom in that. Because the belief in angels is so widespread, you can sort of use them as a catch-all term rather than getting into the minutia of just who's who. And I had one more comment about the so-called one-to-one relationship between population and seraphim. And we know there are group seraphim that are in charge of 1,000, 500, 100. So I don't think the numbers necessarily reflect population, because there are in paper 114 all those other cores of angels, angels of the future, angels of the churches, angels of progress, industry, health, all that. So they're not all necessarily assigned to human beings. Now, the book tells us we worship the Father, we pray to the Son, and we work out the details of our plans meaning decisions already made. There's that word again, decisions. We work out the details of our plans with the angels, which is in effect the third source and center, and her subordinates, her offspring. And yes, I did say her, referring to third source and center. And the book doesn't do that, but I always do, because I think of all the angels as feminine. But good job. That's all I have to say. And thanks for inviting me. It was great fun.
I think as we progress as a society or a globe, there will be more and more individual guardian angels. So at some point, there should really be more than twice as many angels on the planet as human beings, because each one of us would have a pair. So we have to work from wherever we start to, at some point, many more angels, than human beings.
Well, not only we each have a pair of guardian angels, but we each have a pair of cherubim.
Cherubim, right? So 4 to 1. Yeah.
Can you imagine how boring it would be to watch over someone like me, Joyce, for an angel 24/7, watching television, doing whatever I do, sleeping? It has to be a labor of love, because
Yes,
it can't
indeed.
certainly be one of great excitement.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, right, we think of the big decisions, the big moments, but what are our minds and brains doing 80% of the time, right? Something very menial. So when we think about what they're doing, that's even harder for us to understand, right? It must be meaningful, but yet so much of our life, so much of our time we spend on things actually that aren't meaningful. They're probably trying to get us to think about the meaningful aspects, and we're resisting them. David, why don't you go ahead?
I think they might take turns sometimes too, right?
Yeah.
Well, right, and then they have their time
Sure,
off. So what are they doing that? Right?
Your
Yeah,
turn.
yeah.
So yeah, they do get a break from us. But it's funny what stands out in your mind after listening to a talk like this. And what hit me was the fourth bestowal where Michael appeared as an unknown seraphim and acted as a private secretary for 26 master teachers.
Yeah.
And it just struck me that you said that that would be like a personal assistant if we're using today's language.
Yeah.
And so that would be like, and it says he was tried and tested. And it's probably like beyond getting coffee and, getting the car washed and things like that, that a private, a personal assistant would do now for like a movie star or something. But you really took us from Urantia to beyond paradise with how the angels will be with us, and we'll develop a real good friendship with them. But one question that I had, and I can't find the reference, but there is a mention of beings. Like it goes something like they're so close to us that it would be unfair to them to bring it up or to talk more about them. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, David, the closest beings to us are the secondary midwayers, okay? And then the primary midwayers, then the secondary cherubim. I mean, so
I think this would be
cherubim is semi-material.
They are like with us so closely, like them, not like secondary midwayers might interact with us from time to time, Anyway, if nobody remembers this, I might be just such a brief mention that I might have forgotten about that.
Yeah, there are a couple of cryptic references. I mean, not necessarily close to humans, but I think I remember too what you're talking about. Like, oh, gee, is that some whole order of beings that we don't know about that's down here too? But
no matter how close you read, there's always going to be something that
exactly.
I don't even remember reading.
Hey, we can't tell you about this. Always interesting how they do that. Thanks. So, Richard Coleman.
I'm just kind of curious about, in our relationship with our angels. They're here present with us. They can see us. Can they hear our voice? Are they aware of our thoughts? Do we know any of those kinds of details? And if we were to say, I want to thank you, angel, for your service and how you're here to help me, would they be aware of those feelings that we have toward them?
With respect to your question, they certainly can hear our voice, and they're certainly aware of when we thank them. The greater question is, to what extent do they know our thoughts? I mean, they do coordinate in some unknown respect with our thought adjuster, and they do attune all the instruments, all the forces of the infinite spirit, including our adjutant thought.
Well, they stimulate our minds, is what we are told, right? And they continually seek to promote cosmic circle-making decisions. And so I don't know how easily they could do that without knowing if we are actually making those decisions, but it's a very good question.
Yeah, I would think they would. Do they literally hear us? Or do they certainly know what we're thinking in some aspect, right? Do they literally hear us also? I venture to say yes.
I think they hear us.
They enjoy our music, so they have to be able to hear, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Good point.
And
they do know our thoughts.
Right. Not only hearing our words, but what we're thinking behind them is the more interesting part, right? I apologize. The next person with their hand up, all we can see on your screen is iPhone. So please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Ron Jones, and I just wanted to tell you thank you very much for the presentation. It was wonderful, and it's good to see Luigi. I haven't seen you in like 10 years, Luigi. But I raised my hand in response to Alfonso, asking, have people experienced angels, or can you sense them when they're around? And I don't know if, I don't have proof, spiritual things you can't prove. But, sometimes when I play my guitar, when it's just really clicking, when I play from my head, it doesn't sound very musical. But through practice, and I'm sure Luigi can say the same thing when he does his art and any creative anything, but when I play from my heart, somehow I go into this timeless and spaceless place, which is kind of an interesting thing. And it just, I feel surrounded, and I just feel like, you know, the Urantia book does say that the angels do appreciate our music and our attempts at humor and things like that. And so I wonder if they're there and I'm in a frame of mind where I'm open to, you know, just the energies around me. You know, it's not the guitar, it's just, it's just a tool to kind of put you in that zone. You know, professional basketball players, or just basketball players, they call it being in the zone, where you kind of enter this timeless and spaceless place. And I wonder if that's when we're in the presence of the angels and in the presence of our Heavenly Father, because He lives in a timeless and spaceless place too. And so things just go quickly, you know, just, you can be so unaware of time that hours and hours can go by and it feels like 5 minutes, you know.
Yeah, whether that's communication or, like you said, sort of getting yourself in a state, whether you're, I don't know, meditating or doing something or being artistic, that you're in a place where whatever they're doing, whatever kind of communication or influence, either that or they, authorities or whatever, have, you're more open to it or more receptive. Um, uh, yeah, we don't know, but clearly there are some times are better than others, right? And some states are better than others, and some. So we must have something in us that pulls us toward those experiences, right? Because, like you said, it's positive, right? It's you feel something wherever it's coming from. So
Yeah, and it seems like it's deeper than emotion too. You know, I
right,
mean, it is
it's not just
emotional.
a comfortable or relaxed or
It feels like
satisfied
a
or happy.
communion,
Right.
like there's something communicating, you know, on a deeper level. And when I'm in my head, it doesn't work, you know, but when I'm in my heart, it does, you
Right.
know. But you have to practice enough, like for the guitar, so that you can turn off your head and play from your heart. So I think that the Urantia book says that life becomes more, I can't remember the terms, but more satisfying when you become expert at something. And and I think that if you become expert at something, then you can get to that place where you can turn your mind off and not think logically about it, but go to a deeper level of intelligence within you, where you can listen to your Heavenly Father teach you by the hand, or the Spirit of Truth, or the angels can give you support on the outside of you as well. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. Like I said, it's just something to think about. But just know I love you all, and I'm grateful for everybody that has appreciation for the Urantia book.
Thank you, Ron. Thanks. Marion.
Kind of an answer to the question if any of us have ever felt an incident where possibly the angels were involved. I was going on a canoe trip with an outward bound group off the Hawaii coast. And after I got out of the truck with my stuff, there was a flashlight lying in the back of the truck. And I took it. And I walked about 10 feet away, and I thought, oh, I shouldn't take this truck. My parental programming of don't take something that doesn't belong to you. And so I put it back. I walked another 10 feet away from the truck. And this is, I swear, this is exactly what I heard. Marion, don't be silly. Take the flashlight. It could come in handy. So I go back and I get the flashlight. Long story short, several of the canoes got washed at least 8 miles out into the ocean. And that flashlight, we hooked up with the second canoe that got washed out. And several hours later, a helicopter, because one of the canoes made it back to shore, they had strong paddlers. A helicopter was flying, but it was flying much too close to the shore. So I instructed the tallest person, I taped it to an oar, a paddle, and I had the tallest person stand up, and then I directed a prayer. I told everybody, I was the only Urantia book reader on that boat, those boats. I said, think of this prayer. And I prayed for the pilot to see my light, our light, and he did. And he came and circled around. So that flashlight saved 8 people's lives, including my own. And later on the shore, the pilot chose me to come up and say, "You don't know how lucky you were. I had already called off the search when I just happened to turn my head and see the light, your light." And so I thought, oh, it's a fishing boat, but I better go check. And that pilot came and circled, and they sent out the rescue squad that let the canoes go, and we got into the rescue boat. So it was a very clear message. I don't know if it was the midwayers, the angels, my thought adjuster, but I'm sure grateful that I'm here to tell the story.
Thank you. Beautiful story. Yes. Yes. Okay. Kara.
Yeah, my thank you, David and Joyce. It's such a fascinating subject. It's wonderful. My comment is just a follow-up from Richard, really. I mean, I just talk to my angels all the time. I've given them names. I just assume I have a guardians of destiny. But I just assume they're there, they're watching me, I wave to them. I mean, they are our friends for eternity. And so I think giving them names is a natural thing to do somehow. Just part of my life. They're very good at finding parking spaces for me. I know that. And I can also think of a really dangerous car accident I was in. And suddenly, I wasn't driving, it was somebody else. They were driving on the wrong side of the road, a car round a bend, car coming straight to us. Suddenly, everything went black. Next thing I knew, we were carrying on along the road in the next stretch, perfectly fine. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Our friends for eternity.
Well, one thing, Hera, that the Urantia book tells us is that in this lifetime, our guardian angels are getting to know us. So they're becoming familiar with us. We might not be becoming familiar with them, though it sounds like you are. But most our guardian angels are becoming familiar with their wards for basically for a billion years.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. You mentioned the individual guardians, which maybe we all, most of us do have. But I think the book is very clear from the way it talks about, ministry and all the forces working to us. Even if we are in one of the shared groups, right, where we share those with it, we're still getting all the attention we need, right? Like the book is very clear that all the forces are giving us everything possible and all that we need. So don't get, I mean, just because not you, but sometimes people get hung up on this question. Well, do I have the individual or am I part of the group? And don't worry about that. If you're part of the group, you're still getting all you can handle, right? And when you need one yourself, that's when you'll get it. You'll just have, but that's a good explanation of why how they share the work. And like you said, there's 8 billion out there. There are going to be plenty. Rick,
these beings are around us every day, night and day. Surely they must have challenges with boredom to start with, because we move so slowly in our evolution. But my question is about the relationship between the midwayers and the angels. There are only around 2,000 secondary midwayers, and they're the ones who can make physical contact. So here's the way I see it. The angels are watching over us, and one of us is in danger. And there are 2,000 midwayers for every 4 million individuals on the planet. If you assume that there are 8 billion people here, so the midwayers can zip around the planet at 2 times the speed of light. So here's an angel. his ward is in trouble. He says, I need you right now. And so the midwayer flies over and helps. And then there's another call. And sometimes there are several at one time among these 4 million people that each midwayer has to cover. So it's a fascinating relationship that I don't think we ever give much thought to. But they're working their tails off just to see that we're safe. And I've had an experience where my life was saved. But I won't get into the details. I just know that somebody or something pushed me away from a dangerous situation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rick, for mentioning the close relationship between the midwayers and the angels. And the angels really do rely heavily on the midwayers. And the Urantia book continually talks about the close relationship. If we had more time, we could and probably should have emphasized that more. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, it's a good point. And we were thinking about, well, what are they doing all day? I mean, obviously they're relating to us, but you bring up the good point of coordination that they have to like they're busy probably not coordinating with the midwayers. All these things we hear about, the ones that are keeping track of what's going on with the planet and making reports and keeping records, right? They're probably facilitating all these different interactions to keep the Urantia world and the spirit world, us connected to them in ways, outside of our direct experience. So they're probably looking like this. Well, what do you mean bored? We have a lot of work to do. In fact, we can't even, it takes all our energy to keep up with it, right? You don't even understand what we're doing. It's like, what does a kid think their parent does? Well, they go to work and, they make the food sometimes, right? They have no concept of all the things that you've done to, to get to the point where you are, as their parent, right? When they're little. Linda, hello, go ahead.
I think about our connection with our thought editors. They say when we're in a super consciousness state, we're more accessible. And how do we get in that state? It seems that comes when we're in communion or in worship with the Father. So it seems to me in a creative state, we're in a similar place in that we are putting aside many of our filters and allowing guidance or allowing reception, opening our aperture to receive. And so it seems to me that's very similar, Ron, to what we achieve in those ways. And that's perhaps why creativity is so key to spiritual growth as well. So I just love that you brought that up. And I have some interesting experiences with artists and how they achieve their art that relate to that. So that's really fun. So I think, that's something we can intentionally do is spend time in communion and to drop our filters, put them aside. Those of us who've trained in doing energy work and truly believe that we weren't the ones doing the work, but more vehicles for it, we learned how to do that in a very practical way. So that was very helpful for me to have that background as I was developing my spiritual practice, and something I fell into as a child without really knowing what I was doing. But when we do that, in my experience, we get a great deal reception, and it's hard to put in words exactly what that is. But comfort comes to mind, guidance comes to mind, knowing comes to mind. So some of those things. But I think your creativity, you're kind of in that flow, and I think that's likely where we're headed to live our lives in a state, all of us in a state of flow and interacting on that level, and how beautiful that must be. Thank you.
Why do we have that urge, and why does that bring us such satisfaction, whether we are experiencing it sometimes from others or ourselves? And yeah, it's a really, it's more than just, well, this is a cool thing to do, it's a cool thing to experience. It must be part of our training, it must be part of our growth. And yeah, maybe eventually we are in those kind of, maybe that's get a taste of what it's like to be in those higher levels, different Urantia mind states and those sort of things.
So we learn to use a broader part of mind. Yeah.
Right. Judy.
We often come to places in our lives where we're guided by whether it's our our thought adjuster, are angels around us, because I think they're social engineers, or whether it's our midwayers who are interacting with each other. The harmony and the coordination is something that's reflective of the whole universe, because without the harmony and without the cooperation, things don't work right. And a long time ago, I was asked by, well, everybody in the congregation, by the minister, was asked to step out of your comfort zone and pray about it, and then go out today or this week and find somebody that looks like they need to have a prayer, and just ask them, would you like me to pray for you and with you? And so that's something a lot of people don't think of. And if we're in tune with the things that we believe and that we try to commune with God with, it gets easier. And so I decided I'm going to try this. I'm just going to go into this little produce stand, and I picked out a few different things, and a feeling came over me. You need to ask this lady at the cash register if she needs prayer today. And as I was checking out, I said to her, excuse me, but would you allow me today to pray with you and for you? Is there something that you are in need of? And she said, oh my goodness, you're the second person today who asked me that. And I do. And she moved over, and I could see in the background a little girl in a wheelchair. And it was not just a regular wheelchair. It was one of those special things with all different equipment hanging from it and whatever. And she said, I've been praying and praying and praying to God to help me, and I don't think he hears my prayers at all. And I'd like to know why God's not hearing my prayers. And so I prayed with her. She was looking for healing for the family, not only for this handicapped child, but for everyone. They were getting tired. They were really in need of comfort and strength. And so I was prompted to pray with her. I don't know whether it was midway or whether it was seraphim. I don't know, it was my thought adjuster or it was a conglomeration, but I did. And she again said to me, she started to cry, and she said, thank you so much for praying. And I really hope that God's listening maybe to you if he doesn't listen to me. But the other person who came in offered the same thing. And I said, well, were they from this particular church? And she said, no, they told me they were from another church, and he just felt as though he needed to pray with me today. And I said, well, please listen to me, because I'm being led to tell you that if you don't think that God's hearing your prayers, you've just had two messages. He's listening. And to me, that was the interaction with whoever it was. And I tend to think that was angelic, because I've had an experience with a midwayer talking to me about healing, and that worked wonderfully well. But thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you, Jody. That's a wonderful, wonderful story. Yeah, right. The whole nother level of stuff they have to do, right? Coordinate with other angels and their people, and bring us together in the right ways and helpful ways and productive ways. But beautiful story. Thanks.
Being in tune.
Yeah.
It's good to see your face.
we are technically out of time, but Yuri, I'll let you give us our last comment or question.
I find it may sound a little clinical, but it my mind, it's what comes to my mind, right? So I'm looking at it. We have what we assume is our agenda, and the guardian angels. Let's focus on these guys. Have their own agenda.
Sure.
They're a ministry, and we need to be ministered. So even though, so when you look at where do those agendas align, you realize they don't align in a physical flesh necessarily, but they're trying to elevate our mind, and they're doing it very much from a perspective of we live a short time in the flesh. Their lesson in the flesh is much longer. They're showing up at 50,000 batches. They have to be effective at ministering without disturbing, without interrupting with our more with without affecting our choices beyond a certain level. I mean, they can do it without affecting them from a moral viewpoint. So on our first level here on Earth, we're not seeing them, and that's understandable, right? Because even though there's something that aligns our purposes, they're not aligned in a sense that we spend a very short time here. Their lesson is different. So the Urantia book is putting out a lot of clues on who they are and what they're doing. And when you think about it, we don't really care what car they drive and what, what flavor or rouge they put on themselves. We're trying to find out who they are. And the book is really good at giving the perspective of different personalities. So when we put ourselves in their position and start asking ourselves, how are we going to deal with these mortals, or what is our specific purpose? I think we can find out a good amount. I mean, a lot of answers can come through when you ask questions, and again, it's easy to not be patient or see our viewpoint. It takes a little more to see it, from a different perspective and a different timeline. If we can align ourselves with those perspectives and timelines, I think a lot more will be revealed to us. So thank you for bringing that up and opening this subject. It's great.
Thank you, Yuri. Yeah, it's a great point. They're with us for the long haul, right? And they're just getting started. And we're worried about our car keys, and maybe they are helping us sometimes when we need it, but they're obviously working on the bigger picture.